I'll count us down in three, two, one. Hi, I'm Richard Randall, and welcome to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. This is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Colorado's Real Estate Authority, Barb Schlinker. Barb Schlinker is a retired Navy veteran. Barb is an author. Barb Schlinker is a pilot, and Barb and her team enjoy all that Colorado and the Front Range have got to offer. Barb, always great to be talking with you. Now, we air Your Real Estate Voice every Saturday. If you can't listen to the entire show, it is always available on Barb's site, barbhasthebuyers.com, or search for Barb. You'll find her on all of the popular podcast platforms like iHeartRadio. Every week, Your Real Estate Voice covers great information about the housing market and one of the largest assets, the home. So, Barb, what are we covering today?
Well, Richard, as always, I'm excited about today's show because I think it's very relevant to what's going on in the market right now. And the first topic is why as many as 30% of contracts fail, typically over inspection, and what you can do about it. And, a lot of times people don't prepare. I get the request all the time. Well, do I have to update it? Do I have to fix it? Can I just give them a credit? Can I sell it as is? And the only way you can get it sold when you have what I call deferred maintenance, as is if the home is priced well under similar sales. So we're going to kind of deep dive into the ways that you could prevent your contracts from falling apart. And then the next topic is about how homeowners are buying their next home first before selling their current home. There are lots of fantastic programs that we're going to talk about and a way to make that transition without the worry of your home selling or deals falling out or having to make a contingent offer, which is weaker than a just, fully approved offer. And then the third topic, kind of interesting, I spent some time on my new friend AI, making sure my data was correct. We're going to talk about selling a rental property in Colorado Springs and what do you need to know about tenants, taxes, and timing. The laws definitely have changed here. I'm starting to call it California because it's gotten a lot more tenant friendly. And if you do have a rental property, you need to understand that before you even think about selling. So we'll go into that. What are the costs and all that. And then the last topic is how to sell your house fast in Colorado Springs when regular home sales are actually taking longer. And as always, I love talking about my hot new listings. Richard?
Barb, you've been selling thousands of homes over the years. Why is it, do you think, that there is an increase in the number of contract failures, and what can home sellers do about it? Home prices are higher, there are more homes on the market, and buyer demand has softened. What makes buyers decide to walk away from home sales these days?
Well, typically right now, I think most of the agents and typically the buyers fully understand that when they go under contract, it's not necessarily a done deal. There's all kinds of what we call off ramps or ways for them to back out and get their earnest deposit back. No harm, no foul, even without spending a dime. And so a lot of sellers worry about finding a buyer. And I can understand that concern. It is real, but you can solve that with pricing it correctly. But many deals are falling apart over inspections and sometimes financing issues. And typically, the sellers want the most money, the best terms, a fast, smooth sale, but it doesn't always work that way. You wouldn't believe how many things happen behind the scenes between agents. I just got yelled at the other day because we were asked by the seller to attend the buyer's home inspection. And oh my God, this guy got up in my face. Is that your policy? I said, no, my policy is what my client wants. He's the guy, they're the people that are writing my paycheck, not you, not your buyer, and not your inspector. So if they want us there, we're there. It's just that simple. And they just got their nose out of joint because they felt like they were entitled to having the home all to themselves during a 3-hour inspection with an unlicensed inspector. And oh, by the way, they also brought 10 of their favorite best friends. So it's really frustrating, and anything could derail the sale, contract to closing. So the way you keep it together is you pay attention and stay focused on what needs to happen. Even when the buyer signs a contract as is, this just happened to me as well, where the seller had well prepared to get this home ready. They are in the process of putting on a new roof. They did a pre-inspection. They addressed everything. They even upgraded with air conditioning, all kinds of great stuff, right? And they felt like they've done what they need to do. They upgraded the electrical panel. So the buyers made a low offer and the seller said, fine, we'll take it, but it's as is. So what happens after the inspection? They come back and ask for 8 repairs. And it's like, okay, what part of as is and that part of the English language do you not understand? So it's really frustrating for home sellers. And it doesn't matter. They still demand repairs on threat of walking away. We even see it on some of our corporate listings, or basically we have some listings that are owned by the VA, they're government listings, and their policy across the board is we're not fixing anything. We don't care what your problem is. But the agents feel like that's leverage, and they'll go, well, if it needs a roof and it needs this, and if you don't accept that, or if you don't lower the price, we're walking away. So what the VA says is, okay, bye-bye, we'll get another buyer. And it's hard for buyers agents to understand that, because they all believe we're completely in a buyer's market and they can ask for anything they want and fries with that too. The actual statistics nationwide, according to some data for Redfin, was that 14% of US home contract deals fall through. That's a 3-year high. And it does vary based on location and the volume of homes on the market. And there's a lot of different factors. It also varies by the price range of the buyer. But the agents still feel, even though it's not a red hot seller's market, that they are in the catbird seat to ask for all kinds of stuff. So, but the truth is, in this area, and this is where I had my new best friend AI do some research on it, in the kind of front range location, generally entry level, the problem of the deal falling apart typically is going to be over financing, maybe not inspection. Move up buyer, same thing, probably not too bad. But there is more risk of a deal falling apart over condos and townhomes. Kind of the wild card there are homeowners associations and the cost of insurance and the unknowns that they cannot control. Sometimes they bail out over that. And then the luxury buyer expects a lot, but they're typically seasoned buyers and they know what they're looking for, and they understand if they're taking on a home that needs work. And a lot of them have money to put into it to make that happen. There's also a higher risk in the more rural properties as well. So I thought that was an interesting study that I pulled from Mr. Claude. Also, if you look at it, there's a lot of indications in the new construction market about lower buyer demand. I was just talking to one of my agents yesterday, and she was telling me there's a local builder offering a buy down interest rate where the introductory interest rate for the first year is 1.99%. Now, we haven't seen that since before the meltdown. And then the next year it goes up, and I think it finally lands at like 5.99% or something like that. But that certainly is a very big carrot to dangle buyers away from purchasing a resale property. So that's something, if you're selling, you really got to be aware of what your competition looks like around the area, because especially if you're in an area where there's a lot of new construction, those builders they're coming up with some pretty cool ideas to get the buyers to sign the papers. And you know what? No matter how much marketing your agent does, you cannot market your way out of overpricing. Either it's priced right or it's not. If it's not priced right, they're not going to show up. If it's priced right and they like it, they're going to come and see it. And a lot of people don't realize that where you price a home when you first go on the market is probably one of the most critical decisions a home seller can make, because that's when it's fresh on the market. That's when the new listing alerts go out on all the different platforms. The buyers and their agents rush to get in to see it, especially if it's priced right. So you're really competing with fresher inventory, and everybody's paying attention to what's new on the market if they haven't found a home yet. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of this show, Your Real Estate Voice. And we're talking about why more contracts are failing. What can we do about it? And when we come back, we're going to hit on some tips on what you can do to keep your buyer on the line. And if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call, 719-301-3900, or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
Richard Randall sitting in with Barb Schlinker. She is the host of the program, owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. You can get in touch with her at 719-301-3900. Now, Barb, what can home sellers do to prevent their buyer's contract from failing?
Well, Richard, number one, preparation absolutely is key. And it doesn't matter if your strategy is to sell it as is or try to get full market value. If you're going for full market value, you got to address all the issues. Even the pretty homes will get tagged on stuff on the inspection. Home sellers typically don't want to do this. They kind of think, well, why should I upgrade it for them? I'm not going to be able to enjoy it. Or maybe they won't like what I put into the house. But at the end of the day, some of the key areas you can really work on, if there's any tired flooring, worn carpet areas that you can visibly see in the photos, is there any broken stuff? Most of the buyers don't want to jump on a home that needs work unless it's priced well under similar sales. And then all sins are forgiven. So one of the ways that you can prepare is maybe consider calling us to let us help you do the certified pre-owned home program. We've had lots of home sellers do this. It's a great strategy because first of all, you get a pre-inspection. You get a head start on what are the problems with the house. Do we have little Mickey Mouse electric? Do we need updated, smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors? I don't know if you know, Richard, that one of the latest trends on inspections and the trends in the system are that smoke detectors are now designed to last 10 years. After 10 years, even if you replace the battery is still going to chirp. Did you know that?
Barb, I had no idea, and I have to say, every weekend you come up with information like this that's really, really important that I don't know, and I'm sure the average listener has no idea as well.
Well, thank you. And I think, where I'm learning it is because we're actively working sales, and on the inspections, all of a sudden there's this new trend where the inspectors are saying, if your smoke detectors or your carbon monoxide detectors are more than 10 years old, you got to replace them. And the new ones are designed to die after 10 years, even though they may still be working. So that's an easy, relatively inexpensive fix to take care of before you go on the market. But we will walk you through what's customized and needed for your home. So if you would like to get a free in-home consultation on what to do and what not to do to get your house ready for sale, we'll go over all of the closing costs. We'll show you a price range of what homes will sell for. Give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. But pricing absolutely is critical. A lot of agents tend to look backwards in what has sold, and they'll go right for the top of the price point and go, I can get you $1 million for your home. However, they know it's not really going to work. And then that home ends up being one of the many, many that are sitting on the market. More than 50% now are lowering their price. I look back on the stats from July to the end of August, and the median asking price has dropped over $10,000 just in 1 month. So Zillow is not going to be accurate. Zillow is about what people are asking for their home, not what people are getting for their home. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call, 719-301-3900. 3900, or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
Remember, you can get in touch with Barb Schlinker at 719-301-3900 or barbhasthebuyers.com. We'll take a short break. When we come back, how home sellers are buying their next home before selling the current home. Barb explains that. There you go.
All right.
And that's not just sucking up or something. I mean, every week there's at least one thing that I didn't know, and I'm a pretty bright person. I'm not saying that David or other people, they might know it, and I'm the last person on the planet to find out. But something like that, I mean, I'm so sick of it. And I'll talk about this on the air sometime. I'll credit you for this. I'm so sick of planned obsolescence for everything. I've got my adapters and all my cables for charging devices over there. And every 4 or 5 years, well, we came up with this new, instead of using the old adapter, now you can use a new one, and it's the C or it's the D or it's the whatever. And they've had them sitting back in the research room for 20 years, and they know darn well, we'll trot this out, everybody will buy that. Then we'll trot this out, everybody will buy that. It just gets old. Really old.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I've got number 2 here. David's good to go. You good, Barb?
I'm ready. I was just thinking, I'm trying to fit in this one story. I'm trying to figure out where it's going to fit in these segments.
Take a minute.
It's extraordinary. It's about this offer I got last weekend where the asking price was just under $1 million. And the offer amount came in at 9.5 million. And I'm like, it's not too many things make my eyes go big early in the morning. I looked at that and went, whoa.
That would make my eyes go big and my heart would start pounding out of my chest, and I'd start, calling the bank and everybody I know. Damn.
Oh, I called the seller and said, sign it now.
Exactly.
And he goes, I didn't even explain it to him, because I said, just trust me, just sign it. He goes, yeah, but we're not including a bar fridge. I said, I'll buy your bar fridge if this goes through,
Yeah.
But anyway, it was obviously a typo,
and the thing is, as a lawyer, I'm sure that there'd be people, no, sign it, we can do that. But it's not true. I mean, when you get into court and you go through all the other things, a judge, a jury, whatever, they're not going to let a typo and a mistake like that ruin somebody's life or something. They'll, I don't know. People sometimes think they hit the lottery because somebody hit the wrong key on a computer or a keyboard. All right, I got number 2 ready to go.
Okay.
Counting us down in 3, 2, 1. I'm Richard Randall, and welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner-broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, with more homes on the market and the concern of their home sitting on the market for months, how does a home seller who wants to buy another home make that move in a low-stress way by being able to buy their next home, avoid missing out on the perfect home, and sell their current home, and do all of that, Barb Schlinker, stress-free?
Well, I will tell you that a majority of home buyers have a house to sell. Not all of them, but quite a few. And it's a dilemma that most real estate agents don't have a solution for. Typically, they'll say, well, just get your home under contract and then make the offer contingent on your home selling. And it's risky for a seller to take that offer. They will, if it is under contract, they'll take the risk, especially if they don't have any other choices. But you got to worry about your buyer's financing and their buyer's financing. So a lot of things can go wrong in that mix of 2 sales happening. So we have some really cool programs that really absolutely solve this problem. So some people are getting rejected. Like I had somebody try to make an offer recently in another state, and they got shot down because at that time they didn't have this program. And I just introduced it to them. So they were going through the approval process when they wanted to make this offer. And of course, they're up against competition. And guess what? The seller took the one that did not have a house to sell. It could have been that the price was even a little bit less, but most sellers want that certainty. And once they did finally get squared away for this program, it happened again where they were up against competition. But because they did no longer have a house to sell because of this program, their offer got accepted, which is incredible. So some home sellers kind of resign themselves to, okay, fine, I'm just going to wait till it closes and then go pick my house, which is an option, except that you have to move twice. You have to go into temporary housing. It's not fun to move at all, let alone move twice just to get your goal accomplished. Making an offer contingent on your home selling is certainly weaker than not having a house to sell. And that's why if you're up against competition, you're less likely to get approved. The other, because it's kind of a maybe deal. How do you know this deal is going to go through? How do you know this buyer is going to buy? And also, there's another option that some people say, oh, even though your house isn't sold yet, make an offer contingent on your home selling and waiting for it to sell. So basically they're asking the seller, and I ask them this every time I meet with the seller. I'm like, how do you feel about accepting an offer? If I came to you and said, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I love your home. I want to buy your home, but it's contingent on me selling my current home, and my current home is not on the market and or not under contract. Will you reserve it for me? Well, the answer is no, almost always. Some people say it depends if they're not in a hurry, but most of them say that's a no, right? So we can solve that problem too with these programs, because most sellers don't want a maybe buyer. But if you were to accept an offer like that, our MLS rules are ridiculous. They require that you change the status in the multiple listing service /KGB to say that it is right of refusal, which when it gets shared out to all of the tech company sites like realtor.com, zillowhomes.com, it shows as if it's under contract, just like any other under contract home on the market. And therefore that creates demand destruction. And guess what? Now, no other buyer wants to come see your home because they think it's not available anymore. And so I get around those rules. Let me just say it that way. I'm sure I'm going to get busted if they're listening, but I get around those rules because I don't want to take the risk of the seller maybe taking a contingent offer and then repelling all the other buyers, even though their buyer really can't buy right now. And most people think they only have two options: sell their home first, move twice, or buy first and then risk owning two homes. Both of these are kind of scary, but we have a third option. It's a more modern solution. It's really cool. And basically the program allows you to buy your next home first. You would be negotiating from a position of strength. Actually, we have several lenders that will step in and become a cash buyer for you. You're still directing the show. You say, I want that house. So go, okay, we'll go buy it for you for cash. And then once they close on it, at that point, you're responsible for paying rent on that home until your house sells. And it's a very inexpensive program. It's way better to meet your goals, especially if you just have to have your next home. That's really, really important. So if you are thinking of making a move and you'd like to find out about those programs, give us a call. Not too many people offer solutions like we do. Give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. We're talking about how people buy their next home without selling their current home. And next up, we're going to talk about a stress-free way to move. Richard?
We're here talking with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. You can reach Barb at 719-301-3900. So, Barb, how do home sellers buy their next home before selling their current home without breaking the bank?
Hang on just a second, guys.
All right.
Hear her. So somebody came up to tell us we were being loud and she was being loud and then you couldn't hear the show. Okay, I got it solved. Ready?
Oh, I do that again? Okay, hang on.
Date. We don't need to redo the reset piece. We just,
No, I can just start. He asked the question, so we can just go.
yeah,
I
Okay.
can just start talking.
whenever you're ready.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. So the traditional way really is to put your home on the market, get a contract, hope it closes, which there's a lot of things that make a deal fall apart. I was just discussing with my seller just a few days ago about their buyer's cash. So that's good. That means that at least they don't have to worry about loan approval and appraisal, but they still have one more little off ramp to get out of the deal, right? And that's over the survey. Only because the buyer wants to put in a fence for their dog. So they want to be able to bail out if they're not satisfied with the results of their survey. The problem is, seller has a big house, they got to pack it up, they got to plan their move, and they're working and all the stuff is going on. So it's very difficult for a lot of home sellers if you're asking them, hey, will you move out on closing day? Even though we could walk away all the way until closing day and get our earnest money back, and you move this big household and then something goes sideways. So most sellers really don't want to start packing or really, gather everything up until they know the deal is firm. They don't like that uncertainty, especially when they have this massive project of moving that they're facing. And on top of that, they got to go find their next home too. So they got to travel if they're going away, or if it's local, they got to go shopping for their next home because now they have a deadline not only to move, but to get their next place. So our buy before you sell programs completely solve these problems. First of all, they allow you to pick your own home at your pace and sell at your pace. That way, you could buy your home first if you wanted to for cash, start moving into it as soon as they close on it, and then take your time selling. It really solves all the issues of having to move twice or the worry about the uncertainty of a deal falling apart. And it gives you plenty of time and not much expense in order to get your home sold, get the price that you want and need, and move at your pace. And what happens with these is it actually gives you a strategy to make a stronger offer, right? If you're a cash buyer, a lot of cash buyers think that they're in the catbird seat because they're cash. Now, the truth is, it's all cash to sellers at closing. The only issues that you take away from a cash buyer are you don't have to worry about a third party appraising the home and altering the sales price if they don't agree that it's worth the contract price. It allows you as a buyer, though, to remove those contingencies, it's sort of like telling the seller, I'm buying your house, I'm paying cash. The only real contingency is the home inspection, and then we're done. We're gonna buy this home. And that allows you to win the home that you want, especially if you're facing competition. You know, the Colorado Front Range area is still a fairly strong market. It's not, a lot of agents think it's a total buyer's market because they can ask for concessions. It's really not that much of a buyer's market. It's still leaning towards a seller's market. However, because there's more homes on the market, because people are not appropriately pricing, many times the agents think that it's a buyer's market where they could come in and ask for all kinds of concessions or price reductions and things like that. And sometimes they are getting it. Whereas back in 2021, 2022, there's no way you're going to get a discount. It wasn't going to happen at that point. So if you want to see how this works, basically you would just give us a call. My name is Barb Schlinker. I'm the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of this show. It's not just one program, by the way. There are, I think, 7 programs that we have that allow you to buy your next home before you sell your current home. And they work in different ways. One of them is the lender, or 2 of them are the lender goes and pays cash for your next home. Another one is that you take the equity out of your home and buy your next home without a payment and without bridge financing. Those are the 2 major ones that you have an option for. And I've seen plenty of people do that. Maybe they have a paid for home and they'll say, all right, I'll just take a home equity line of credit, go buy my next home. But then their interest payments are stacking up every day. So it puts a little pressure on them to get it sold. And if they were having to get a loan on the other end, the payment on that line of credit factors into their debt ratio. So it makes it very difficult. Whereas with our programs, there is no loan. There's just a lien. So if you want to find out about it, give us a call. My name is Barb Schlinker, the broker owner of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty and the host of the show, Your Real Estate Voice. And you can call us at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Barb Schlinker. This is Your Real Estate Voice, and Barb should be your real estate voice. She's the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. You can reach Barb at 719-301-3900. A short break. When we come back, we'll be discussing selling a rental property here in Colorado Springs, plus tenants, taxes, and timing. Barb has all of that information. 2 down. Yeah.
I don't know how I was on time on that because I got up and walked around and kept the clock running.
Perfectly fine. Perfectly fine.
Okay, thank you.
I saw that it was shorter in terms of how many pages. And there was a time when I'd look at how many pages and I'm like, oh my God, we're going to be short here. Oh my God, we're going to be long here. And it doesn't really matter. You were so good at doing things on the fly that it always works out.
Thank you.
And I don't stress about it. I stress about where I put that piece of paper. All right. Segment 3. I'm good. David?
We're good.
He's good. Barb?
I'm ready.
Count us down in 3, 2, 1. I'm Richard Randall. Welcome back to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker, the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner broker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. Now, Barb, sometimes people decide to sell a rental home. So what are some of the things that they should be prepared for if they're trying to make that sale?
Well, Richard, things have changed a lot in rental laws in Colorado. And there's a lot of changes that took place with the timing of how you give notice, depending on the type of lease that you have, how much time the tenant has to be notified, as well as if they don't pay, how much time they have to bring it up to date. I mean, it's changed an awful lot, and they've given a lot more power to tenants than they have landlords in the state of California. And so basically, if you look at just an eviction or a notice to quit, that is a legal document. It used to be a 10-day notice that if somebody quit paying rent, you could physically go put a notice on the door and say, you got 10 days to pay, otherwise you're out. Not anymore. Now it's 21. It's almost a month where you may go without a payment before you can go get a court date to start the eviction process. Now, most of the time, those things get resolved. You know, I've had tenants before that were late, and then you post a notice, and then all of a sudden they bring it current. Okay, fine. But if they're not paying, you still need to give that notice. And typically it's at least 30 days it's going to take before you can get a court date. Then you have to wait for a court date. That could take a while, maybe a month, maybe 2 months. Then the tenant could challenge they could challenge the eviction. They could claim, oh, well, you're not fixing up the home like you're supposed to. So we're having a habitability issue. And just them claiming that in some way, if it's legit, that can stop the whole entire eviction and make you start the whole timeline over again. So in this state, if you're going to have a rental property, you need to have a pretty good war chest of cash, just in case they stop paying, because it's a process. It takes a lot longer to get a tenant out now. To give notices, let's say it's just a normal lease and they're ending. Generally, if it's a month-to-month lease, you have to give the tenant 21 days that you're not going to renew their lease. And then if it's an annual lease, you can't terminate an annual lease just because you want to raise the rent and rent it to another buyer. You're not allowed to do that. You have to give notice to tell them that you're going to sell it. And that minimum time frame is 91 days. Most of the attorneys are saying you need to give 120 days and get documentation that it was delivered on time. So be very, very careful about that. And also, there are some tax consequences to selling a rental property as compared to selling a home that you live in. There's all kinds of capital gain exemptions for homes that you live in. Typically, if you're married and you've lived in it 2 of the last 5 years, you could profit as much as $500,000 tax-free and not have to pay any taxes on the money. But when it comes to a rental property, it's a different story. That's not the case. If you used it for business, if you have not lived in it 2 of the last 5 years, and you have not sold another primary residence, you might be paying taxes. If you're an out-of-state owner, like you haven't lived in the state for the last 5 years and you've been renting a property, the state of Colorado at closing will collect a 2% of the sales price deposit and make you file taxes with them the following year about any potential tax consequences with the state. If you are a Colorado resident and you sell a rental property, they won't collect that from you, but the feds will collect capital gains if you don't use something like a 1031 exchange, which we'll talk about in the next segment. But basically that allows you to defer the taxes, but you have to take that money and roll all of it over into your next investment. You don't get to keep the money yourself. So a lot of people decide, you know what, I'm just going to sell it. I'm not going to buy another rental property. And so we can calculate what that is pretty roughly. Basically, you take what you paid for the house, you add all of the costs that you put into improving the home, and the selling costs are included in that stack, right? And then so it's just a math equation where you take what you're selling for now minus all of the expenses of the home, and then what's left over, you would have to pay a capital gain on it. Now, the one thing that people forget to factor in is when they're filing taxes for a rental property, typically the IRS makes you depreciate the home across, I think it's 26 years. So every year you can write off about $6,000 to $8,000 on average on the home as a depreciation. Well, guess what? When it comes to selling the property, they're going to factor that money that you wrote off back in. So it's kind of a complicated calculation. I can do a rough one of it and be kind of close, but I always recommend in that case, you talk to a tax professional about it to really find out what it is. But in general, whatever that gain that it ends up being in the end, it depends on your income. If you have just moderate income, you're probably going to pay 15% of the gain of that gain amount the following year. So if you sell it in 2026, in 2027, when you file for taxes, you got to pay that 15 or 20%, whichever it is, depending on your income, to the IRS. So I always tell people, hey, if you think you're going to pay a capital gain, this is a rough idea what it is. I would plus it up some amount and just take some of that money and set it aside, because next year you're going to have to pay that. And usually that works out pretty well for folks that don't want to defer taxes and invest in another rental property. But anyway, in general, dealing with tenants can be exciting. I don't recommend that if you do decide to sell your home, that you sell it with a tenant in it. That's a little bit difficult. I will tell you that a majority of the tenants typically want to stay. They're not motivated for you to sell the house. They're not motivated for it to show very well. They're not motivated to pick it up, make it look pretty for all the agents that want to show. Typically, there's a lot of limitations on when you can show the rental property to somebody. If it's like a single family home, it's a lot tougher. It could be different though if you have multifamily, like a duplex. A lot of times what the investors are buying in that case is the rental income. So they don't mind if it's tenant occupied. Ultimately, on their inspection, they're going to have to look at each property, each unit in that complex. But in general, that's the exception. If you have like a duplex or a fourplex, it's a little bit different. But if it's a single family home, typically the tenants, first of all, it has to be in your lease. So if you don't have it in your lease, that if you go on the market, the tenants will allow showings, you can't do it. It's all about what's in the contract at the end of the day. So you want to be very, very careful that you have a good solid lease drafted up by an attorney, and make sure that when you do go on the house, what I see most people doing is the house goes empty and then they have to deal with condition issues. And a majority of the folks that I meet with are disappointed in how the house gets turned over. You know, the carpet's thrashed, the landscaping almost always is destroyed. And unless you underprice the home, buyers don't want to buy a home with deferred maintenance. So it's a really good idea to invest in some basics. I just helped a home seller recently. We met a couple months ago, actually, first, and they asked me what to do. I gave them tips. They also had to do a sewer line. So there were a lot of repairs that they had to take care of. They ended up putting about $23,000 into the home before they go on the market. Now that's tax deductible, so that's a good thing. But usually nobody wants to spend that kind of money, you know, on a rental property. But you just have to think about it's like any other buyer. When you put your house on the market, you got to put your buyer hat on, meaning buyers don't want homes that have an odor. Buyers typically want a move-in ready home. So if you want to get top dollar, you really have to price it right. And maybe not. Maybe you want to sell it as is and not do any repairs. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's the same answer though. You got to price it right. You got to price it well below similar sales to catch a buyer and get them motivated to take it to the finish line. So you got to consider, okay, if you've been regularly checking on the house, what is it going to cost you to remodel the home? But you just have to budget. I always tell home sellers, hey, if you're going to turn it into a rental, that's fine. Budget for at least carpet and paint at the very minimum, and plan on the landscaping being trashed. And that's pretty true across the board is what I'm seeing. And so you should be kind of building up a war chest for that when it happens. And typically it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a Corinthian leather type remodel. Typically do things like update flooring, 3 to 5,000, appliances, maybe if they need it. But it could be as simple as 3,000 for appliances. New Formica counters, if they've damaged them, is about 2,000. I recently had a home seller that found somebody that repaired burnt Formica, which was incredible. There was like somebody taking a hot pan and put it on Formica, and she fixed it, and it looked, and I was really impressed. You don't see that too often. But anyway, bathrooms, typically lights and plumbing fixtures go a long way. And of course, mechanical systems, you just have to keep updated as they go along. Home warranty, that kind of stuff will really help allay the buyer's fears about an older water heater. And inspectors will deem water heaters dead at the age of 8 years old. So, but that doesn't necessarily mean they have to be replaced. Like our water heater, we replaced after 22 years. So some of them last a long time, but a home warranty sometimes will solve that issue unless it's actively rusting and looking like it's about to go. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call. We help people with rentals all the time, selling their rental property, and we'll give them tips on what to do to get it ready for sale, go over all the costs so you know exactly how much you're going to put in your pocket when it sells. Just call us at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. If you are thinking of making a move, you can call Barb at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. So, Barb, what are some other things people should consider when selling a rental home?
Well, in general, it's the same as any other home. You want the home presented tenant distraction free if possible, cleaned and repaired. That's the best way to catch a buyer. And of course, pricing is probably the most important decision that a home seller can make. Many buyers are searching in a price range. They're looking at what's available in their criteria. They know the market better than most agents do. But even if the home needs work, if it's priced appropriately, it will sell. We just sold a home that was pretty gross. It had a lot of pet damage. And but because it was priced below similar sales, we had a bidding war. So it's all about what you decide to do. But plan on having to get a roll off and get rid of some of the tenant stuff that they left behind. Plan on fixing landscaping, flooring, bathrooms. Those are the things that kind of get you the biggest the biggest dollar for your spend on the property. And you have to keep in mind that buyers are eliminating homes on the internet. So if you don't get those pictures right, if your agent doesn't get the pictures right, buyers will turn their nose up at the property and they'll never come out and see it. So give us a call. That's what we do for home sellers all the time, is we show them exactly how we present homes on the market to get them the most money, give them tips on what to do, customize for their home, and then go over all the expenses so they know exactly what they'll put in their pocket when it sells. Just call us 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice. That's Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty. And if you're thinking of making a move, you can call Barb at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. This discussion dovetails in with the next topic. When we come back, we'll be discussing how to sell your home fast in Colorado Springs. And when homes are taking longer to sell, you can still do it fast. Plus, Barb's hot new listings. Stay tuned for those. Stay tuned for those.
All right. There we go.
Okay. I like that. Only I can feel chest pain. Get a Red Bull.
You get a Red Bull when you feel chest pains, or?
In San Francisco. So
Hmm.
just tough it up. All right. I got number 4 here.
Ready. Mm.
I will say one thing. I'm sorry. When I talk with people, one of the things that they just are always stunned. And these are people, of course, that have not listened to you. They're just out there and they're friends, relatives, neighbors, whatever. And they'll mention Zillow. And I try to just explain as you do, and that is Zillow is not talking about how much people actually paid for a home. It's not
Right.
even talking about how much people offered to pay for a home. It's what people wanted the home to sell for. Is that correct? Is that a accurate
Yeah,
way of
it's just
describing it?
asking price.
Yeah,
It's just averaging asking prices around them,
that
but
is
they're not
so
getting those
freaking
prices.
crazy, Barb. Isn't it? I mean, talk about
Zillow has really kicked our butt as far as, getting the hearts and minds of the consumer. Even real estate agents think Zillow is the MLS. They're so dumb, but
well,
it's fun.
okay, because I just want to make sure I had that right because I keep telling that to people all the time. And in radio, well, in sales, you always have this thing of managing expectations, right? Well, if the expectation is you're going to get whatever homes are asking to be sold at, not what they're really selling at, not what people
Yeah.
are actually even offering to buy them for, etc. As soon as you come out the chute, it's completely unrealistic.
Right. And
And
that's
and
why more than half are having to lower their price, which is a way to guarantee you're going to net less money.
I
Really.
know. I say
But
all that to say thank you to you because honestly, if I didn't do this with you, I probably would have never learned that. And I'm sorry. I got number 4 here ready to go.
they don't all listen to me. Kind of funny.
They should. All right. I got number 4. I'll count us down.
Ready?
Yep. In 3, 2, 1. I'm Richard Randall, and welcome back to your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker. This is the weekly radio show that informs and educates you on how to buy or sell real estate with Barb Schlinker, the owner broker of your home sold, guaranteed realty. Now, Barb, a lot of people look at those automated valuations like on Zillow or their neighbor's asking price to determine what they think their home is worth, especially now that it's taking longer to sell a home. How does a home seller sell their home faster in a market like this one?
Well, a decision to price a home, I think a lot of home sellers typically will tell me they want the most money or they want a certain price or they want this or that. And it's okay. I mean, we would love to get them what they wanted, but at the end of the day, it's what the buyers are willing to pay. And it's quite a complex decision because you're not just looking at what similar homes sold for, you're also looking at what your current competition looks like and how long have they been sitting on the market and are they worth more than more than what you're asking or less than what you're asking. If there are better buys on the market, the buyers are going to pass it by and not even show up. And to be honest with you, I think the buyers know more about the real estate market as a consumer because they shop the internet. Okay. The imagery has gotten so high quality that still to this day, even though it's not as hot of a market as it was back in 2021 and 2022, buyers are choosing to buy homes sight unseen. Would you do that, Richard? Would you go and see a house online and go, I'll take it?
I've seen good ideas, and that is not one of them.
I know, because you get in the door, it's not always what you thought, and there could be a lot of factors that change it, but and it would be frustrating for a seller if they tie up the home, right? And then they come and look at it and go, oh, no, I'm changing my mind. So that's also not good because when you go back on the market, everybody thinks there's something wrong with the house, not something wrong with the buyer. And it's really frustrating as a home seller. That's why I have a different way of marketing. I'm very out of the box, and as long as I'm staying in the lane enough, mostly I stay out of trouble. I do get busted for pretty much every listing from the local MLS, but I've just gotten used to it, and I play their game and move on. But at the end of the day, it's a pricing thing, and the pricing is not a decision that a home seller should take lightly. And it's actually more of an art than a science. If you price it right, you will get the most money. Now, does that mean building in money for negotiating room? No, it's a massive mistake. Actually, if you price it the wrong way, what happens is the buyers, they'll see it new hit the market. And just so you know, when it's fresh on the market, that's when you're getting most of the eyes on the property, right? And they're going, they want that much. No, I can find a better deal over there. And it causes the buyers to wait and see. Also, it leads to ultimate price reductions, which lead to less money in the end. So if the seller wants the most money, and I'd love to get our sellers the most money, the way you do it is you price it right. It's just that simple. It seems bizarre. It seems like counterintuitive to really what should be going on. But at the end of the day, buyers are looking at HGTV. They all want a perfect house. And yeah, there's always going to be somebody that's going to come in and make a low offer, but those are just less educated buyers and or agents. And the market is going to tell you immediately if you got it wrong. First of all, if you go 10 days without a showing, it's not right. It's not the right price. The market has rejected it. Okay. And it's solely based on price. So what they're really saying is we don't like the home, but not where we may like the home, but not at that price. The value basically is just not stacking up to what buyers are finding elsewhere online. The market rejects it. And then the even worse goes on. The showings slow down. The days on market get higher. Buyers use your house to look at other properties. Basically, you're helping your neighbor sell their home. The perceived value of the home basically takes it. Buyers will look at it, and if they do want to make an offer, they're going to come in with a really lowball offer, and they're going to go, the reason is it's been on the market a while. In other words, they're basically echoing back to you that the market said your price isn't working. We're willing to buy it, but not at that price. Okay. And then you're stuck negotiating. That's why this decision is so critical. And even the National Association of Realtors, not me, say that if you price a home too high and slowly walk the price down, you're going to net less money. There's no mystery about this. This is empirical data that they're gathering nationwide about sales. And you really cannot rely on Zillow. I know everybody thinks Zillow is the be all and end all. And to be honest, they have captured the hearts and minds of buyers and sellers. Buyers love looking at Zillow. They get over 70% of buyers' eyes looking at that website. They actually have, the latest number I got, 274 million monthly visitors. Just to put it in perspective, I brag about my 30,000 buyers on my website. I accumulated those across like 13 years. And they have 274 million in the month. So yeah, they basically commanded, because of the way they structured the site, they positioned themselves as the go-to place for a buyer to find a house, right? So that's what we do market. We do cooperate with Zillow when we list our home, because we know that that's where the buyers are. But at the end of the day, a lot of home sellers will rely on the Zillow opinion of value to be the benchmark of what their home is really worth. Sometimes it's accurate, and most of the time it's not, because according to AI, my new best friend, Zillow bases their pricing on the homes that are available for sale, not the sale prices, which is not the same number. So it's not very accurate. And most agents kind of rely on that as a benchmark. And I don't. I look at empirical data and the competition. I look at the whole picture. So when the home is priced wrong, when it's priced too high, demands for the home will slow. Competition starts building up, and you have to make an adjustment if you want to get it sold. If not, it's just going to sit there. Now, I have had some homes that sat there for a while and ultimately got a good contract. But again, the buyer came in less because it's been sitting on the market a while. When it's priced right, you get higher traffic. As an example, just a few weeks ago, I had an open house on one of my listings. We had 50 people there in 1 hour, and I presented multiple offers and it sold for over asking price. That is a seller that decided to price it right, and it works. The markets don't negotiate, they respond to your asking price. That's true for home. You can push it. You can push it a little bit. Right now, the average days on market, according to the MLS, which I use an alternative source that has a much higher number, but it's showing the average days on market is 48 days, except those are the ones that are getting contracts. The ones that are not getting contracts are marching over 100 days on the market. That's wading into buyer favorability territory, and it's all about making those pricing mistakes. So don't be surprised if you've been sitting on the market that the buyer comes in and says, hey, we'll take the house, but we want $25,000 in closing costs, right? And if they're taking that off the sales price, it's a form of negotiation. So I tell the sellers, don't shoot the buyer, focus on the net. Let's see how this works out for you. And you could always, hang on a second. I'm sorry, I forgot to silent my phone. It was set on do not disturb, but it still rang. It's crazy. Okay. You can always, so that's where we're going to pick up. 3, 2, 1. So you can always go up in price to cover their need for closing cost, as long as the market will support that number. But here's what a real professional does for you is if you hire a real professional to handle the sale of your home, they understand the market. They're actively selling. It's sad for me to say, but a majority of the agents are not selling in this market. They have other jobs. They have issues with attention to detail. I get more and more calls and demands after business hours from real estate agents than my clients. I'll talk to my clients all day long after business hours, but when real estate agents are bugging me after 9 o'clock at night asking for an answer, I'm like, no, this is my bedtime. It's not business hours. I recently had one where the agent was so careless. It was $1 million listing. She presented an offer at $9.5 million. So my eyes got real big. I'm like, oh, okay. So I sent it to the seller. I said, sign that. I don't think it's going to go through, but go ahead and sign it. It's 10 times almost your asking price. And he did. And that's when all 3 adults figured out that they made a typo, right? Okay, fine. Then the agent asked me what she should do about it. I'm like, okay, you need to talk to your broker. I'm not going to train you on how to do basics in real estate. It was the same agent that didn't want to be bothered to show the home, and the same agent that doesn't want to be bothered to show up for a client on inspection. So I'm just saying, it's 1 month of school. There's not a lot of quality. And I think the buyers are recognizing that. And that's why the stats are indicating almost 80% of agents haven't had a single sale in the past year. That's not true for our team. We're selling every month. We're selling a lot every month. So you want a pro to handle one of your largest assets. I would not hand this off to some random agent that doesn't have any sales expertise. If you are thinking of making a move, give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice. That's Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty. And you can listen to replays of the show anytime on all of the major podcast platforms, plus Barb's YouTube channel, Barb Schlinker. If you're thinking of making a move, call Barb at 719-301-3900. So, Barb, what are some other magic bullets on pricing your home to get that top dollar?
Well, it's just about pricing, and it depends on what the competition is, probably more than what has recently sold. That's really, really important. I always recommend to sellers to price it what I call realistically versus optimistically, according to what your house is. Not every home is perfectly updated, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the magic bullet is pricing it right, and we can help you do that. And you'll be able to tell if you got it wrong out of the gate based on the volume of showings and or offers. If you're not getting offers, it's not priced right. That's why it's so important to pick the right agent that knows how to help you do this. So if you are thinking of making a move, give us a call at 719-301-3900 or go to barbhasthebuyers.com. Richard?
You're listening to Your Real Estate Voice with Barb Schlinker. If you're thinking of selling your home, you want to get the most amount of money, call Barb 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. Barb, your favorite portion of the show, hot new listings. Tell us about them.
Absolutely. I'm featuring 4 of these this weekend on open houses. 1509 East Bijou at $599 is actually a duplex, each side 2,000 square feet, very close to Memorial Hospital and in pristine condition. Gorgeous place. Also, a really great patio home, 14432 Secret Glen Grove, priced at $424,999. Perfect downsizer home. We have a beautiful remodeled home, 2205 Patrician Way at $499, and a lovely starter rancher, 1518 Sanderson, with a finished basement, gleaming hardwood floors, and a private backyard at $409,999. Also a fantastic home, 15616 Agate Creek Place in the low sixes with spectacular views. We also have a couple of properties. We have one out east on 35 acres with a barn and a detached garage and a VA assumable loan with a really low interest rate. Anybody can assume a VA loan. You don't have to be a veteran at $639,999. We also have a fabulous home out on Reno Road in Pueblo. This home is 62 acres, multi-generational living at $599,999. Beautiful downtown mixed-use property that's both residential and commercial on Fountain Avenue at $524,999. A fantastic 2-story, almost new 8019 Moose Jaw at $624,999, and a beautiful home up in Crystal Park with stunning views and solar, 950 Sugarloaf at $780,000. And this one is just amazing. 9010 Beulah Highlands in Beulah on 35 acres. Stunning log home at $1.5 million. And then we have many more. To find out about all of our properties, go to barbhasthebuyers.com or give us a call at 719-301-3900. Richard?
You've been listening to Your Real Estate Voice. That's Barb Schlinker of Your Home Sold, Guaranteed Realty. And if you're thinking of making a move, get in touch with Barb. You can call her at 719-301-3900 or visit barbhasthebuyers.com. That'll do it for this week. Barb, have a great week. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.